welcome back to the first matchday preview of the 2021-22 season as Bristol City take on Scottish giant Celtic in their first pre-season friendly. Today I'm joined by Hamish from 67 Hail Hail and Laura from A Celtic State of Mind. So we'll start off, Hamish, how are you guys?
Yeah, I'm good, Ben. Thanks for having us on. Looking forward to chatting.
Definitely. And Laura, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Looking forward to talking Celtic and Bristol City. Second one I've not done very much, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. And as I said, it's Bristol City's first game really since the end of last season, and it can have come much harder, could it really? But we'll kick it off with how Celtic have got on in their first two pre-season friendlies, both against EFL clubs, Sheffield Wednesday and Charlton. So we'll kick off with Laura. How did you think Celtic got on in their first one against Sheffield Wednesday, I believe it was?
Yeah, I mean, it's a strange time to be a Celtic supporter in terms of watching the games, because there's this mix of, we were playing a lot of younger players who maybe were part of the squad but not part of the Euros, so we were waiting on a lot of like the more established players coming back. Obviously we've got the new manager, Ange Postecoglou, coming in, so you're looking to try and find out what his style of play is. So with Sheffield Wednesday, it was very much kind of, we played decently well, I would say, is about the summation of it, but like not brilliantly, but like it's kind of just, you're just waiting for the players to gel with a new manager and for the more established players to get back. So it's hard to judge at the moment, like exactly what's a good performance and what isn't just now.
Yeah, definitely. Hamish, what did you take of Celtic's first few games in pre-season?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it was just good to have Celtic back, and to have like some sort of excitement about having Celtic back, because so much of last season was just, you're almost ticking a box just watching Celtic games. There was no real excitement there for me in a lot of matches last season. It was just a case of being there, watching it and commenting on it afterwards. But there is a genuine excitement there for the new manager and the season to come. And the first game was very much a kind of work in progress. Obviously the entire team is a work in progress at the moment, but it was quite scrappy. We started slowly, went behind to a former Rangers player, which just kind of summed up last season. And we all thought this nightmare was going to continue, but it got a bit better. We won the game pretty comfortably in the end, and then I thought Saturday's game we were much better. We started the game much better. It was kind of like a role reversal really, because the first half we were brilliant, really, really good. You could see the new identity the manager's trying to get, passing the ball's always moving, winning the ball back as soon as you lose it, and you could really see that hunger. And then after half time, I don't think it was quite there as much. The performance maybe dipped from like an 8 or a 9 down to maybe a 6 or a 7. But we still, got the victory in the end. But I'm just looking forward to, seeing that progression, I think, over pre-season. And obviously, we talk about pre-season, but 7 days' time, we'll be getting ready for our first Champions League game. So it's not even really pre-season now. We're a week away from a huge game. So we very much have to kind of see that progression very soon.
Yeah, definitely. As you said, you've kicked off with Sheffield Wednesday and Charlton, and in a few weeks you obviously have that Champions League qualifier game before two tricky games at Celtic Park ahead of the new season. How are you guys feeling with the new manager, and how has he looked at the style of football he's playing from what you saw in the Wednesday and Charlton game?
I'll sort of chip in and say I think from a Celtic supporter point of view, I'm sure Hamish will say as well, there was a lot wrong with Celtic on and off the pitch, just from the way that the manager was handling himself. Neil Lennon had a couple of press conferences and things like that where he maybe had a go at the players, which was kind of in an unusually like harsh way. And there was a lot of frustration and a lot of sort of bad feeling around the club. I think Ange coming in has tried to sort a lot of that. Ange Postecoglou's like very straight talker and has tried to establish exactly what his feeling is on the way that we should play, and that's really been welcomed by the Celtic support. We've also had big changes, like a brand new CEO. The first new CEO, our previous one, had been in post for 17 years. So that's another big change, and we're seeing a lot of change in the way that the club is communicating with the fans and stuff like that. So it's a lot of like big change on and off the park at Celtic at the moment, but it's still early days about how that's going to go. But for me, it's been a positive start so far.
Hamish, what have you thought about it all?
Yeah, I mean, Laura's right. I mean, the whole club, there's a kind of positive feeling around the place, and I think everyone is genuinely excited for what's to come. But there's a sense of I don't know if fear is the right word, but there's there is a bit of worry there. Because the club is in a really perilous position at the moment, not financially or anything like that, but just in terms of the playing staff we have, the fact that so much was promised at the club. I think at the start of the year when last season kind of went to pot, and there was so much chat over new footballing structures coming in, new people coming into the club with new ideas. Some of that's happened. We've got the new chief executive in, Dominic Mackay, who I think has some really good ideas. We've got the new manager in who has some really good ideas. We're going to have a new captain as well. But there's loads of things that we still kind of seem to be stuck in the same place we were, weeks and months ago. Our squad is poorer than it was then. We've still not signed what I would call a first team ready player this summer. We signed a couple of guys from Sheffield Wednesday who could go on to be big players. You just don't know, but I get the impression both of them are going to have to work their way into the first team rather than going straight into the first team. We've lost a captain. Odsonne Edouard and Christopher Ajer still look likely to leave, probably our two most valuable players. So you've lost a lot of key players. Mohamed El Yunusi hasn't come back from his loan, so that's probably 4 key players from the last few years, and you're just waiting on Celtic actually making a statement and saying that we're wanting to go forward now. We're wanting to bring in a new player. We're wanting to kind of signal the new era of Celtic, and we're still kind of waiting on it. I don't really know exactly what's happening at the club with this Champions League qualifier coming in just 7 days. I don't know if they're trying to get by on the team they've got at the moment, whether they think they're able to do that and then strengthen in the future. But that just seems like the lessons haven't been learned from previous years, because that's what we did season after season under Peter Law, the previous chief executive.
I guess Celtic has been a bit like Bristol City in the last few seasons, especially last season, and in the last few months and weeks as well, with obviously getting a new manager in recently. Both teams have done that, as well as a load of maybe higher up and backroom staff. We'll kick off with Laura and then go over to Hamish as well. How would you sort of sum up last season? Because I don't think it was a very nice one to watch for either Bristol City or Celtic.
Do we have to do this, by the way?
It hasn't. It hasn't been great for Bristol City or Celtic, has it?
No, it's really not been from a Celtic point of view. Hamish will know exactly what I mean, but for anybody who's watching who's not of a Celtic persuasion, there's a kind of fabled 9 titles in a row that both Celtic and Rangers have won previously, but neither of them have been able to make it 10 in a row. We were in a position last season where if we had won the title, that would have been our 10th successive title in a row, and that would have meant history that we made that our rivals didn't make. So the fact that we didn't win the league hurt a lot more than a normal sort of loss of the league normally does. But again, what kind of stung even more about that was the manner in which it was done. We ended up, I think, something like, I can't remember exactly now because as Hamish says, I've tried to wipe it from my brain, but it was, something like 25 points off the pace by the end of the season. We just were playing very, very poorly. Lost most of the Glasgow Derby games last season, if not all of them, I think. And, on top of that, we had off the field things like, the club coming under like heavy fire for things like travelling to Dubai right at the height of the pandemic and in the winter break. And, just a lot of things that, didn't put the club in a very good light, both on and off the pitch. And we didn't just fail to make history last season. We kind of failed pretty spectacularly at it.
Yeah, definitely. Hamish, you obviously don't really want to talk about it, but sum up as quick as you can then.
Yeah, To be honest, I've kind of moved on from it now. The one positive thing about it was that we didn't lose it in the last day. We didn't lose 10 in a row to like a last minute goal where it would have sent you into the summer, raging. You would still have been raging weeks later. We had the whole Celtic support had so much time to get over it, and it doesn't matter. There was kind of different intervals when you kind of reached the point of realising that it wasn't going to happen. Some people did it, I think, after our first derby defeat in October, or certainly after that run when I think we had like 3 wins in 13 games. Some people waited, and I think I was part of this, until January after we'd lost the derby match, and then went to Dubai and drew, I think, 2 of our next 3 games or whatever after that. That was kind of when I parted with the 10 in a row belief. Some people probably just waited until it was mathematically impossible to win the league. But even then, you're talking early to mid-March, I think it was. So you had months and months to get over it and just to look to the future. And that's the only thing I think that kept us all sane, was we could look to the future. Yeah, the future was Eddie Howe for months, 2-3 months of Eddie Howe, and that obviously didn't happen, which is another bitter blow. But we kind of reached a point where, well, I certainly did, where like last season's done. I need to watch what I'm saying, but it was a different season, put it that way, with no fans in the ground. Now, I'm not saying if there had been fans in the ground that we would have won the league. We had far too much going wrong. We'd still have lost it by just as many points, I think. But it does kind of, put a slant on the whole season, I think, when not one person got to see a single minute of football. To me, that's not real football. But if I said that on 67 Hail Hail, I'd probably get a slagging from certain Rangers fans that still like to watch my channel. I'm probably kind of safe saying that here.
Well, I was just about to say, that was probably going to be my next question. Do you think having no fans at Celtic Park, which obviously you've seen in recent years, Celtic fans have been absolutely brilliant. Do you think that did have a quite a big blow on why Celtic maybe didn't do as well last season than they have in the last 9 or 10 seasons?
Yeah, I think we had a lot of players in that team that thrived on the atmosphere and thrived on, proving people wrong. Like, so many of them that had won so many trophies, gone to big stadia, in Scotland, and got big results. And then last season they just didn't have to do that, and I think they lost their edge a lot. And I think a lot across the city, I think it did favour them. I don't think many people would disagree with that they had so much pressure on them to try and stop us winning 10 in a row. And I think it made it easier for them knowing, they didn't have to play in front of fans. I think even some Rangers players have spoken about that. But as I say, I'm not saying that, if fans had been there, that the league would have been any different, because we were such a basket case of a club last season. But I definitely think that, Celtic as a club would be affected probably more than a lot of clubs in terms of, having fans at games. Obviously other clubs were affected far more by the pandemic in general, financially, all that kind of stuff. But I think I would have liked to have seen, how last season would have fared had we been able to get a lot of fans into Celtic Park for some big games. Just some of the results in there, losing 4-1 at home to Sparta Prague, don't know if that would have happened, with 60,000 Celtic fans there, but I guess we'll never know.
Yeah, definitely. Laura, did you think having no fans at such a stadium like Celtic Park did have a massive reason on why Celtic maybe didn't do as well as the likes of Rangers this year?
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one to quantify, because as Hamish says, every club in the country and the world, the same as industries all over the place, were affected by the pandemic. So for us as a club to come out and say, well, the pandemic caused so many issues for us, other people could quite clearly look at us and sort of say, well, you're not alone in that. But I think, as you said yourself before, we've certainly had times where results at Celtic Park in particular have been majorly contributed to by the fact that we've got 60,000 fans roaring on the players. I was at the Celtic Barcelona match in 2012 where we beat them 2-1, and that was undoubtedly, in my opinion, part down to the crowd that was there. So it's a difficult one to quantify, but it's obviously going to make a difference. And as Hamish says, especially when you've got certain players who appear to be relaxing in a situation where they don't have fans breathing down their neck, or players who just can't get up for games like mentally because they've not got fans to entertain. It's going to have some sort of effect, and I don't think it's any coincidence that we were as dominant as we were for 9 years and then suddenly, sort of collapsed so spectacularly in the circumstances.
Yeah, definitely. Both Bristol City and Celtic are definitely in a period of change, aren't they, at the moment? How can we expect Celtic to line up on Wednesday night at the Robinside Performance Centre? I'll start with you, Laura.
I think you'll probably, perhaps unfortunately for you, I don't know how strong the Bristol City team is at the moment, but I think this is probably the first chance we'll see sort of some of the players coming back to from the start of the lineup who've maybe been away at the Euros and been having a break since then. So I'm expecting to see a pretty full strength team. Just because there's been a bit more of experimentation against Sheffield Wednesday and against Charlton, I'm expecting to see what is going to be the formations of the kind of expected lineup against Midtjylland in the Champions League. So that's what I would like to see from a Celtic supporter point of view, and that's what I expect to see. We've obviously got another friendly against Preston North End at the weekend, where I think it'll be even more cemented, but I'm expecting to see like what I would recognise as the starting lineup. So you're talking about players like Barkas in goal, probably our Greek goalkeeper, and up front, Albion Ayeti, the ex-West Ham player who didn't have a great season for us last season, but seems to have been, boosted by the incoming manager and has scored a couple of goals already in pre-season and is looking to take that opportunity. So they're two names that I expect to see for certain, and if I do see them, I'll be expecting them to start in the Champions League as well. But there might be a bit of experimentation with some of the youngsters as well.
Hamish, who would you like to see start for Celtic against the Robins Wednesday?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to kind of see a pretty close to full strength team pretty soon, because we've only got 2 games, and I don't know how I feel about playing a full strength team on Saturday. I think it's 3 days ahead of Tuesday night. Even the game on Saturday, it's a 5:30 kickoff. It's not as if it's 12:30 or something like that, whereas you maybe have 5 extra hours of recovery. The game's Tuesday night, it's not Wednesday night, so there's not a great deal of time between those two. But it's that whole kind of balancing act of giving players minutes, but also making sure that they're recovered in time for the one that matters against Midtjylland. So I think tomorrow night could be the one we see a full strength team. I want to see the Scotland players basically all involved. I think they probably all should be, maybe other than Ryan Christie. I think Callum McGregor was really good on Saturday. I want to see him back in the team, and David Turnbull as well. I think he's, he was a shining light of last season and a terrible season, and he could really be a star player for us again this season. But yeah, I'd quite like to see a strong team from the start and playing most of the game. Maybe you can throw in some youngsters later on or whatever to keep players fresh. But I think it's kind of time to get that first team settled as much as we can.
Yeah, definitely. And with your Champions League qualifier next week, it's obviously very important for you guys after such a disappointing season last season. Do you think these games against both Preston and Bristol City are very important to try and get those victories heading into that big game next Tuesday?
Yeah, I think probably just from anything other than a fitness point of view is the main thing. Like getting minutes in the legs, especially for the players who've been off for a bit longer. Obviously, the players who were away on international duty during the summer perhaps don't need that kind of brought up to match fitness. Callum McGregor, Ryan Christie, James Forrest were all away with the Scotland squad at the Euros, and there were a couple of other players as well for other national teams. So they're probably quite, I don't want to say fresh, because actually they could probably be doing with a rest if anything, but certainly for the players who've had a bit more of a proper break over the pre-season, these games against Preston and Bristol City are going to prove vital for us to try and get up to some sort of match sharpness, because as Hamish will know, we've struggled with the Champions League qualifiers in recent years. We have to play so many qualifiers just to get into the to the group stages. Even when we've been champions of Scotland, we've had to do the same thing. So it's a grueling start to the season at the best of times, and you want to make sure that players are kind of up to match sharpness as soon as possible. So friendlies like these are vital in doing that.
Hamish, who do you think we should look out for Celtic if obviously your strongest team does start on Wednesday night?
Yeah, I think Callum McGregor is the one who's going to he's going to be such a key player for us this season, Callum McGregor, because he's almost certainly going to be the captain. I know Celtic are kind of keeping their cards close to their chest on this one. They're taking their time. I think Postecoglou said he wants to speak to certain people to find out who's the best candidate to be our next captain. But everyone, I think, knows that it's going to be Callum McGregor, that he's the one that's been getting geared up to be the captain for the last 2 or 3 years. He's been in the shadow of Scott Brown, learning from our best captain of the 21st century, and he's going to be the next captain as far as I'm aware, and as far as I'm concerned. And the way he plays as well is going to be crucial as well. He's probably one of our best players when he's playing well, but last season he had so many games that passed him by, and so many games where he would make silly mistakes. The one at Ibrox springs to mind when he was on a booking and he put in a daft second yellow challenge, and giving the ball away in sloppy areas, when the one thing about Callum McGregor you could always say was he didn't give the ball away. He was neat and tidy in possession, and he moved the ball on. So if he can get back to the level we know he can play at, he's going to be a key player for us this season. David Turnbull is another one, and I think Albion Ayeti could be one to watch this season as well. He's probably been our best player so far, both in terms of his goals. I think he scored in both games, and his work rate as well has been pretty good. So he could be a key player for us. He's a £5 million signing a year ago. He's a former Swiss international, played for West Ham. I think they paid big money for him. He was on fire when he played for Basel. So he should be a player who can score 20-25 goals for us. Last season he went through a really good phase in September, October, and then never found it at all. Seemed to kind of chuck it, to be honest, near the end of the season. Didn't seem fit, didn't seem in good enough shape to be playing, didn't seem interested when he did play, but he looks like he's ready to kind of reignite his Celtic career now. So hopefully he can be one that could come right in and score some goals for us, because if Edouard is going to leave, we're going to need to sign someone, but it would be ideal to have someone at the club who knows where the back of the net is. And you look at around, Lee Griffiths isn't exactly he's not reliable at the moment at all. We've lost Bio recently. Klimala left in January, and then you're looking at youngsters up front. So we really need a Yeti to be firing on all cylinders if Edouard does leave.
Yeah, definitely. Laura, who do you think is Celtic's standout player at the moment and Bristol City fans should look out for?
I think a personal favourite of mine last season was David Turnbull, another Scottish international. Didn't get a minute of time at the Euros, unfortunately, but he came in just sort of before Christmas. We actually were supposed to sign him sort of a year ago, sort of not last summer, but the summer before. But he unfortunately had a massive knee injury that he kind of sort of blew out his knee, and it took him a long time to rehabilitate. And for anybody watching who wants to see a kind of good short documentary on that rehab process and stuff, his old club Motherwell FC did a YouTube documentary that's free to watch on their YouTube channel for anybody who's interested in watching something like that about rehab. And so he went through a lot of sort of struggle to get back to playing before he came to us, but and therefore didn't come straight into the team when he signed for us. But when he did sign for us, and when he came in sort of November, December time into the first team, it was kind of a revelation. He's a kind of, I wouldn't say a number 10, but certainly like an attacking midfielder who's able to create, able to shoot. He's very much about finding passes though in the middle of the park, and he's just got that. The best way I can think to describe it is a kind of touch of class that we didn't have from other players before in the season. And actually another player who came in with him at the same time into the first team was Ismaila Soro, I'm not sure exactly if he is going to start, because we've got, some other signings come in. Liam Shaw came in from Sheffield Wednesday, so whether it's one or other of them that's going to come in, I'm not sure. But Ismaila Soro is a kind of not really a holding midfielder, but certainly a more defensive midfielder who really breaks up play of the opposition, but can move forward as well. And he's quite an exciting, dynamic player. So they are definitely two to look out for. They formed a really good partnership for part of last season, coming into the team at the same time, and they're definitely are a duo of players that I would like Celtic to build the team around going forward.
Definitely. So before we end off the preview with a score prediction, how are you guys feeling heading into the new seasons? Because you kick it off with obviously the Champions League qualifiers, but the actual SPL season, you've got 5 very tough games to kick it off, including Rangers at Ibrox. So we'll start off with you, Hamish. How are you feeling heading into the new season that obviously kicks off on the 31st of July away at Hearts?
Yeah, it's a tough start, really tough. I think so. Our first 11 fixtures, the first round of fixtures, I think we're away to Hearts, Rangers, Livingston, which has been probably the toughest away place in the last 3 years. I don't think we've won there in 3 years. Could be wrong there. We've certainly lost a couple of times. Hibs, I think, as well.
Yeah,
and
got
there's one
Aberdeen.
more. There's another. Yeah, Aberdeen. I think Motherwell as well.
Yeah,
away from
that's
home.
that's all in the same month of October. You got the 2nd, you got Aberdeen. Then the weekend after that, you got Motherwell, and then 2 weeks after that, you got Hibs.
So I think that's tough, but it can also be a really good thing, because you can almost use it as a motivation for the players. Get through this first chunk of the season in touch, because if we are in touch after those first 11 games, I'll be pretty happy. And that's not being defeatist or writing us off or anything. That's just a reality for me with all those tough games. Ibrox, Tynecastle, first game of the season. Yeah, there's probably only going to be a couple of thousand there, which is actually, as much as I would love to see it full, is not a bad thing for us only going and there only being a couple of thousand. But that's a Saturday night game. The atmosphere will still be good. They're just, back from winning the championship, so that's going to be tough. Aberdeen, we don't really know what to expect, but it's, Scott Brown playing for them. They've signed some good players. That's going to be tough. So if we can come through, and Hibs as well, if we can come through that first chunk of the season in touch, I'll be feeling quite good, because then obviously you get all those teams back at Celtic Park. You can maybe go on a wee run there. So I think I'll kind of defer until that stage, until we've played those first 11 games, and then I'll be able to say exactly where I think we're at. The truth is, we don't really know. We've taken a huge gamble by bringing in Postecoglou. For me, it's a bigger gamble than Eddie Howe was, but he could be amazing. Certainly, a lot of people in Australia only have good things to say about him. People in Japan are the same. So it's all about whether he can, take to it in Scotland. Because if he starts well, gets the fans on his side, then it's going to be a hell of a lot easier for him. On the flip side, if we go out of the Champions League to Midtjylland, drop points at Tynecastle, lose at Ibrox, it's going to be a bit of an uphill task.
Yeah, definitely. And Laura, if from what you've seen with the new manager against Sheffield Wednesday and Charlton, are you quite confident heading into the new season?
I think based on the season we had last season, and I can't overestimate or overstate to people who didn't watch it how bad it was. I don't think there's any Celtic fan going into this season being confident. I think the best thing that we can say is that it's a fresh start. It's a new CEO, it's a new manager. Hopefully before too long we'll have some fresh faces in the door in terms of playing staff as well. And that's really all you can say about it. Optimistic is not a word that I would use, but certainly I'm happy to see some fresh faces in there, and at least something different that's going to be sort of on the cards for the season ahead. Because I think the other thing to say as well is, for anybody watching who doesn't know a lot about Scottish football, it might seem an exaggeration to say it, but finishing second in the league if you're Celtic or Rangers is a failure of a season, and to then do that maybe 2 years in a row is even worse. So we will be looking to try and get get the league back as soon as possible. I think given the way Rangers played last season, running away with it in the way that they did, as Hamish says, if we can be in touching distance after the first 11 games, given how tough they are, then I'll be happy with that. But yeah, Ange, as a new manager, hasn't shown me anything that's concerned me so far. If anything, it's just I don't want him to be hamstrung by the way the club is being run at the moment. But him as a manager seems very encouraging, and he seems very determined to put his football and philosophy across to the players, and hopefully that can only be a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. And Celtic as a club, you're going to be getting back to Celtic Park ahead of the new season with 3 friendlies, and including that Champions League game. Will either of you be going back to Celtic Park for any of them?
Well, I mean, I've not had a season ticket for a few years, but certainly I think with everything that's happened, even having not been able to get to the games as soon as it's possible, I'll definitely be trying my best to get back there, yeah.
Definitely.
It's going to be a struggle to get in, I think, depending on the numbers. The chat is 2,000 at the moment until basically until restrictions are lifted further. That's in level 0, which is basically the lowest level of restrictions in Scotland. You can still only get 2,000 people in. And I know there's been chat of a test event next Tuesday. But even then, the demand to get to Celtic games is going to be tough, because even 10,000, which may seem like a decent number, you're talking about season ticket holders maybe getting to 1 game in 5, which seems a bit crazy. So I just long for the day when Celtic Park is full again and we can all be there.
Yeah, definitely. I think you've got like 45,000 season ticket holders or something around that, didn't you? So if it's 2,000, literally golden ticket, really, isn't it? And then even 10,000, you need a lot of luck. But we've been chatting for half an hour about obviously Bristol City and Celtic, and we'll finish off now with a score prediction. So we'll start off with Laura and then go to Hamish. Laura, what are you thinking ahead of Wednesday? Are you confident that Celtic will be able to get the victory?
Well, I mean, I'm not really sure of Bristol City's level at the moment, and given the way that we play, sometimes I don't think any result for us is guaranteed. But I'm going to be positive for us. I'm going to say I want to see some goals from us, and I'm going to say 3-1 Celtic. I might look very silly, and anybody watching is very welcome to come after me after the match if it doesn't turn out to be the case. But I'll go 3-1 Celtic.
I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, with the way Bristol City ended up last season. Hamish, are you going the same as Laura? Are you confident?
I'll be polite and I'll say 1-1. How about that? Because it's only a friendly. We can have a draw and then we can both win when it really matters.
I'd be very, very surprised if it was 1-0. 1-0, sorry. In my opinion, if we're going off to the end of last season, I think it's not going to be the best game to watch. But you obviously got Celtic on their good days. You know how good they are, and Bristol City as well on their good days. And so another Bristol City podcast went down to the training ground and said they look pretty good actually in training. So I am hoping for a win, and we kick off the new season with a win heading into the championship season. But thank you, both Hamish and Laura, for coming on today. It's really appreciated.
Not a problem, Ben. Thanks very much.
No problem. Thank you for coming on again. Enjoy tomorrow's game. Make sure to go and check out both of their channels down in the description below. And I'll be on a Celtic State of Mind tomorrow, pre-match and half-time. So make sure to look out for that as well. Again, thank you both for joining me today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys all on the next one. Come on, you Reds.